It feels like you can't even go a single day without hearing about some new AI breakthrough, right? Or a company valuation that just seems insane. Tech giants are pouring billions and billions of dollars into this space. The hype is absolutely everywhere, and it's moving at lightning speed. Which brings us to the big question we're going to tackle in this explainer.
So let's just ask it. Is all this frantic investment, this sky-high optimism, is it sustainable? Or are we just floating in a massive AI bubble that's waiting to pop? Before we can even try to answer that, we've got to make sure we're all on the same page about what a bubble even is. At its core, a bubble is just when the price of something gets totally disconnected from its actual fundamental value. It's fueled by pure hype and that powerful feeling of FOMO, the fear of missing out, where everyone rushes in because they see prices going up. And while this AI technology feels brand new, this pattern is something we have seen before.
Yep, we've definitely seen this movie before. The intense hype, the flood of money, that feeling that, oh, but this time is different. It's a story that history really, really likes to repeat.
Just take a quick trip back to the late 90s with me. The dot-com bubble was all about the promise of the internet. Investors were literally throwing money at any company with a .com in its name, like Pets.com. Great Super Bowl ad, terrible business plan. Then, fast forward to 2008, the housing bubble. That was built on incredibly risky debt, all packaged up into these complex products nobody really understood, and it almost crashed the entire global economy. The details changed, but that pattern of, let's call it, irrational excitement feels pretty familiar.
So, how should we think about the AI boom happening right now? Well, it's a classic double-edged sword. On one side, you've got this incredible potential for progress, but on the other, there are some very, very serious risks. Let's start with the upside, because this part is a little counterintuitive. Even if, and that's a big F, but even if we are in a bubble, all of this frenzied investment actually has a pretty powerful silver lining.
See, all this cash isn't just disappearing. It's building real, lasting stuff. It's funding gigantic data centers, it's designing incredibly powerful new computer chips, and it's attracting the smartest people in the world to work on these problems. Think of it this way. The dot-com crash was brutal, right? But it left behind all the fiber optic cables that basically are the modern internet we use today. This AI boom is doing the same thing, creating a foundation of hardware and models that will be useful long after the hype dies down.
Okay, but let's flip that sword over and look at the sharp edge. Because if this bubble does burst, the consequences could be, well, pretty severe.
So a crash would obviously mean huge financial losses for investors. That's a given. But it could also ripple out into the wider economy, leading to real job losses. And here's the really big one. It could trigger what's called an AI winter. That's a period where funding for genuine research just dries up because investors got so badly burned by the hype. That could slow down real, tangible progress for years.
And this right here, this is probably the most worrying sign today. There's this massive gap between the hype and the reality. Investment is through the roof, but the actual measurable return on that investment for most businesses is still pretty low. And that is the classic recipe for a bubble. Sky-high promises that aren't yet backed up by sky-high profits.
So with all these parallels to the past, and all these warning signs staring us in the face, we have to ask the trillion-dollar question. Is this time truly different?
The answer? Well, it's complicated. It's kind of yes, but. It absolutely has all the markings of a bubble, but there are some really critical differences this time around that we can't ignore. First off, the sheer scale is just staggering. By some measures, the investment mania we're seeing right now is 17 times, that's 17 times larger than the dot-com frenzy. The amount of money is just unprecedented. But here's the real kicker. It's not just how much money is flowing in, it's whose money it is.
And this is maybe the biggest difference of all. The dot-com bubble was fueled by pure speculation on startups that were frankly bleeding cash. Today's AI boom is being bankrolled by some of the most profitable, cash-rich companies in the world. We're talking about Microsoft, Google, Amazon. They are funding this from their massive existing revenues. And we're already using AI in real, tangible ways every single day, from our search engines to discovering new medicines. So what does this all add up to? Well, the most likely outcome probably isn't a total catastrophic crash. It's more likely to be a very sharp and probably painful correction. Think of it as a localized bubble. What that means is a lot of the overhyped startups might fail, sure. But the foundational tech giants, the ones who own the infrastructure, they'll probably weather the storm just fine and maybe even emerge stronger.
Okay, so the hype train has clearly left the station, and we're not going to stop it. The real question is, how do we make sure it doesn't go completely off the rails? Let's talk for a second about how we can all approach this with a healthy dose of reality. It really boils down to three key things. First, for investors, it's all about focusing on value, not just visionary promises. Is a company actually generating real revenue today? Second, regulators probably need to demand more transparency to make sure these huge, complex investment deals are what they appear to be. And finally, for the builders, the engineers and entrepreneurs, the focus has got to be on applied AI. Use it to solve specific, real-world problems that customers are actually willing to pay for.
Look, at the end of the day, the AI revolution is real. It's happening. But like any revolution, it's going to be messy and there are going to be casualties. The key for all of us is to stay grounded and always ask one simple but tough question about any AI venture out there. Is it making real money or is it just making a lot of noise? That's really something to think about.